I'll be talking about play-like activities, which are play activities that have a different goal, a hidden goal for the child. And this goal, in this case, is academic activities, so the goal is for them to learn something. So I will be talking about the development of an integrated manipulation and communication assistive technology to support academic activities, and we will learn about what it is in a moment. I'll be talking on behalf of a lot of people from the Catholic University of Portugal, people from the University of Alberta in Canada. They were the ones that motivated this study, and I did a sabbatical there with Al Cook and Kim Adams in 2008, 2009, and those ideas all came from that group. Also people from the School of Education at the Polytechnic Institute of Lisbon, people from this center here, which is a Center for Rehabilitation of Cerebral Palsy in Lisbon, people from another university in Lisbon, and the institute from, well, I'll say the name in Portuguese, the Instituto de Medicina Molecular, so it's mainly an institute for medical doctors, and also a company that sells assistive technology. We have been hearing about play this morning, and play is really the most prevalent activity in children, and it is through play that children learn. And it is also through play that children reveal their cognitive skills. If you think about it, it's often when you see a child play that you realize what that child already knows. And if a child doesn't play because he or she has a physical limitation, for example, you are not aware of what that child knows, and you can keep yourself from providing new opportunities for that child. And without providing those opportunities, that child will not develop to their full potential. So play is very important. Also important, because it enables play, for example, it's the motor experience. And this is reported in a lot of works, namely works from Piaget or Vygotsky. And they all stress the importance of motor experience, the ability to explore the environment, to touch the environment, to pick up things, to touch them, and to play with them. And these ideas have been transported to education. And current pedagogic activities advise the use of play-like activities that enable children to hear about the new knowledge, but also to talk about it, to see persons doing it, but also doing by themselves. In Portugal, as I believe in most countries today, the paradigm is inclusiveness. So children with disabilities are included in regular classes, attending regular classes with typically developing kids, and to their maximum possible extent, they should be included in all the activities that are being performed in classes. So teachers many times end up with the challenge of teaching through these multimodal activities that require the child to manipulate, to talk about, and having in their classes a child that cannot do them. So in order to tackle this problem, and building on the work that Kim Adams and Al Cook have been doing on making math activities accessible for children with motor impairments and also speech impairments, we started this WARPI project. WARPI stands for what? Well, I don't remember. I will tell you in a moment. Using assistive robots to promote inclusive education. That's it. So the goal was to develop an integrated augmentative manipulation and communication assistive technology. And why an integrated augmentative manipulation and communication? Because children need to manipulate objects, but they also need to communicate, to talk about their experience. And they need to do it at the same time. We saw in a slide that Noah was showing us a bit while before, that young kid had two iPads, one for communication and another one for play. Okay? And that's often the case. In our previous studies, we had these switches so children could control a robot, a small robot. And we have to take away their communication device. So either they were playing with the robot or they were communicating. So the idea here was to build an integrated assistive technology, enabling them to manipulate and also to communicate about their learning experience. So manipulation here is through this robot. This is a Lego Mindstorm robot that you can buy off the shelf. It costs like 300 euros, so it's relatively inexpensive. This robot has a gripper here that can hold something and take it to somewhere else, and it has a pen there that can draw on the surface that the robot is traveling on. And this robot is controlled through a computer, and this computer is running the GRID software. The GRID software is a communication software, as augmentative and alternative communication software, is widely used in Portugal, and I believe that is also used here in Israel, well, and is widely used all over Europe. So we integrated in those communication grids some cells to control the robot, make it go forward, go backwards, left, right, etc. So the child now is able to access their communication vocabulary and also to control this robot at the same time. And additionally, since we are using their communication device, what they usually use for communication, we are relying on their training on the use of this software, and also we are relying on their computer access method. So if they used to use switches, for example, they will be using switches also to control the robot. If they are able to use, for example, an eye tracking system, they will be using the same eye tracking system for communication as they did before, also to control the robot. We also developed a virtual version of this, meaning that instead of controlling a physical robot, children will be controlling a virtual robot on a computer screen, and instead of manipulating physical objects, they will be manipulating virtual objects. And why is this? Because if for the child it is the same experience to control a physical robot as controlling a virtual robot, well, the virtual robot will be cheaper, it will be easier to disseminate, it will be easier to use by non-technical persons because, well, let's face it, a Lego robot, it's easy to use, it's easy to assemble. But, for example, it is controlled through Bluetooth. So you need to know how to pair the robot with a computer. So there are some technical background issues there that you need to address. And if it was only a software, if it's only a virtual system, it would be easier. So we also developed a virtual robot, a virtual version of our YAMCAT, of our Integrated Augmentative Manipulation and Communication Assistive Technology, and then we went test it. And we involved 9 children with disabilities. They were all integrated in regular classes, and we asked them to perform adapted activities with this system, and they were all in preschool or in first grade. And the activities we adapted were in these curricular areas. Language, it was Portuguese language because these tests were run in Portugal. Mathematics, science, and social studies activities. So here you have a table that shows you our participants. So I will be reporting on these first 5 here. These are the complete table of the 9, but these 4 here only participated in the 2014-2015 academic year, and we have not processed all the data yet. So I will be reporting the results about these first 5 here. 3 females, 2 males, between 5 and 6. You see here 5/6 preschool level 3/1st grade because this young girl here participated both in the 2013-2014 academic year and also in the following year. And 2 of them used the physical robot, 3 of them using the virtual robot as dictated by chance, and 4 of them used a trackball to access the computer, and the fifth used an eye tracking system. We assess their cognitive abilities using the pictorial test of intelligence. Participants 1, 2, and 4 performed a little below average. All these children have some degree of cerebral palsy and some other concurrent disabilities. Before going into classes, we had to train these children to use the robot. Please remember here that we are using the robot as an augmentative manipulation tool. It's an assistive technology to support manipulation. So children will be using the robot as a tool to manipulate objects. So the robot is not the end goal here. The robot here is only a tool. And because it is a tool, and the tool requires the ability of the user to use it correctly, we need to train children on using it. So we have a training protocol that I won't be talking here. It was reported elsewhere. And that training protocol aims to develop the following skills. The child should be able to drive the robot to any workspace location, should be able to pick and place objects, using the pen that the robot has at the backside to trace lines, and the child should also be able to communicate using the grid system while controlling the robot. Then children went through a variable number of sessions. Some of them required more sessions than others. And I have to say that some of them were not able to fully control the robot at the end of the training sessions. And we had to stop the training sessions because children were losing motivation. And what we did was we observed children and we saw what they could do and what they couldn't do with the robot. And if we manage to reprogram the control in order to reprogram the robot in order to overcome the child's limitation, we did it. For example, I'm sure that all of you have experienced controlling a remote car, for example. And it's easy when the car is traveling away from you, because your left is the left's car, your right is the right's car, and if you say forward, the car will move forward in relation to you and will move away from you. But if the car is facing you and you push forward, forward moves the car closer to you because the forward part of the car is facing you. And your left is the right of the car. So you need to put yourself inside the car in order to be able to control it. So you need to move your frame of reference to the car. And some children cannot do it. And particularly young children cannot do it. But we can modify the way that the robot is controlled, so all the control is done from the perspective of the child. And if the child moves its forward, the robot always will move forward, even if it requires the robot to turn on itself to move forward. Okay? So that's the neat thing about robots. We can reprogram them. Another thing, even so, there were some children that were not able, for example, to move left or right. We recorded that, and the activities that we are proposing those children to perform in classes wouldn't require them to move the robot left or right. We are only proposing children some activities that require them to move the robot forward and backwards, for example. So, after the training sessions, we moved to the classroom sessions. We went to the teachers of these children, of these participants, and asked them to think about their curricular activities, what they are meant or they are planning to do within 1 month from the first interview, and try to adapt those activities so those children with disabilities could do them using the system. And we carried the portfolio of activities so they could get a feeling of what they could do with the robot. And of course, we also showed them the robot. And we, in cooperation with them, we developed these adapted activities. All of them prepared with the teachers, all of them prepared taking into consideration the activities they were planning to do. And all of them prepared, keeping in mind that the activities should be done by everyone in class, not only by the child with disabilities. That child will be using the system to perform the activity, but all the other kids, all the typically developing kids, should be involved and doing the activity in their regular ways, like using scissors or glue, whatever it's needed. Okay? All necessary physical materials were prepared by the research team, except in one case that the teachers were so involved that they want to do it by themselves. In general, classes were conducted by the teachers themselves. Only in one case, the regular teachers asked the special education teacher to conduct the class, and one adult, the special education teacher or someone from the research team, provided technical support and academic and robot control support to the study participant. Okay, so there was some dedicated support to our participant. 3 classrooms were organized for each child, one dedicated to each of those curriculum areas: Portuguese language, mathematics, and social studies. Classroom sessions were videotaped, and to evaluate teacher perceptions, we interviewed teachers before and after the intervention. Before going to the results, I'll like to show you some videos. Hopefully they'll work. So the activity here is to place the planet at its correct position in the solar system. You see here, this child is using the virtual version of the robot. She's controlling the robot to take the planet to its position. She's using a trackball to control it. And what is neat here is that she's sitting in a table and all her peers are sitting there doing exactly the same. Okay? So, and we could see the smile in her face because she was involved. Often what happens, at least in Portugal, is that with this inclusion paradigm, children are there, are in classes, are in regular classes, but they are sitting there and watching the others. And this time she was doing exactly the same thing. This guy is controlling the physical robot that will disappear in a moment. So he is controlling the robot through an eye tracking system to access the computer. So he needs to look at the computer and fix his gaze into the option he wants for a certain amount of time, which is challenging because he needs to look at the screen and then look at the robot to see what he's doing. The robot is there behind that person. The goal of this activity was arriving through here, through there, through a neighborhood that meant to be the neighborhood of the school, and he was supposed to pick the longest path from here to there. So now he's watching at the robot, which is over there, and trying to control it. So looking at the screen again, turning right, and then he will move it forward. And there the robot goes. As you can see, the robot is drawing a line while he's moving. Look at his peers. Look at what they're doing. This was not a really inclusion experience. But at least the roles are completely inverted. Instead of being the child with disability standing there watching the others doing the activity, it was the other way around. All the others were sitting there seeing the child doing the cool things. Oops, sorry. I have some more videos there. Oops. So I'm sure you are aware of all those activities that you give the child 2 choices and the child needs to draw a line from one point to the correct choice, and we have worksheets like that. The typically developing kids were doing the same activity using a pencil and drawing a line from one place to the correct answer. And this child is using doing exactly the same activity but using the robot. So he's drawing a line to the correct answer, and the question was, chickens are covered with, that's the Portuguese word for feathers, sorry. And I wanted to show you something else in that video before I move on. And where's the mouse? Some technical problems here. There it is. There you go. So again, he's controlling the robot using an eye tracking system, as you can see there. I wish I could move this forward a bit, but...
Esquerda. Frente. Esquerda.
Of course, the other kids want to play as well.
Frente.
Qual foi a opção que ele escolheu?
Frente.
Ok, diz lá qual é a opção que escolheste.
So after giving the answer in this way,
Tá certo?
he was supposed to use his communication system to answer. So he's looking for the word feathers there, and is answering using the communication system. So this is to show you that he was able to control the robot and also to use the communication system for communication.
Diz lá, Mona.
Okay, so let's try to move. It's always like this. And now the mouse, where are you? Okay, there we go. So the last video I have here to show you is a video of this young girl. She's controlling the robot to pick and place apples. And the goal was to move the number of apples from here to the tree that equals her age. And what I would like to draw your attention to here is that she's controlling the robot in her frame of reference, meaning that when she will hit this left button here, the robot will turn on itself and move left. Now she's using the gripper to pick up the apple. And now, as you see, she hit the left switch and it made the robot to turn on itself and move left. As you saw, it takes time. Okay. So the results of the interviews, the teams that came up from the content analysis that we conducted on the teacher interviews, regarding the use of the YAMCAT by the participants, in the opinion of teachers, it enabled the participation in the same activities that the other students were doing, though it required more time. It increased the communication with their peers. There's something that we have observed in all our robotics studies. It's like a side effect. We are not addressing communication, but in the end, communication increased. It contributed to access the new knowledge and to demonstrating skills by these children, and I already mentioned the importance of that. It had an academic impact in their social and academic performance. Regarding the use of the MCAT by the participants, it contributed to their self-assertion within class. They were so proud, they were the center of attention. It contributed to a greater appreciation by their peers, and we, in the end, we let their peers to use the system too. So, and that experience contributed to them to realize the difficulties children with disabilities have to face every day. Okay. This does not move forward. I don't know. Well, actually it was my last slide, but I don't know how it moves. Well, it's stuck here. So, anyway, this concludes my presentation, and the next slide will show you, oh, now you go. Okay, so integration in of the system in classes. So just to conclude, requires training to regular teachers. Regular teachers complain that they were not trained to use assistive technology, and requires a difficult balance between the attention that you are giving to the child with disabilities and to the rest of the class. And this is because the child with disabilities requires more time to complete the activity. And while this child is completing the activity, you have 18 or 19 other students starting to become nervous and starting to talk with each other. So it's hard for them, and in their opinion, it requires the presence of another adult in class. So that's a drawback. And thank you for your attention. You can find here the website of our project, and all these presentations are there in these videos. Thank you.